So Oscar Wilde said, I can resist everything except temptations. He's very clever. And as anyone with a human brain knows, resistance doesn't work when we're faced with temptation. So this week on Joyful Eating for Menopause, I'm sharing how I handle temptations. And this technique is so effective that I actually can't remember the last time I actually felt any sort of temptation. So, welcome to Joyful Eating for Menopause, episode 251. So, this week we're talking about how I handle temptations. But before we get to that, the best bite I had on the weekend, I cooked some chicken Marylands actually, which is, I really love thighs and legs. So, it's the thigh and leg joined together. Just roasted them with some white wine and onions and thyme. And then I made a sauce that, which is actually, there was a recipe in Gourmet Traveler magazine, which I have subscribed to for probably 30 years almost. I love it. And I don't cook that much from it, but I do get a lot of ideas. And so I was like, oh, a green sauce, because my parsley's going mental in the garden because it's spring here, so the spring greens. So I had mostly parsley and then a little bit of tarragon, which of course classic with chicken, and a little bit of garlic chives. Finally chopped them up actually by hand and then just stirred it through with some local extra virgin olive oil, bit of garlic, and then tiny bit of lemon juice. And it was just that with the chicken. And I served it with some roast sliced almonds. And so that had that nutty crunch, and then also some crumbled up some feta. So it had that kind of salty tang to it as well. And it was just, yeah, it was so good. Anyway, so let's check in. So why are we talking about temptations, right? It's that time of year. There's going to be a lot of foods that we probably wouldn't normally get exposed to, and also situations that we wouldn't normally be in. So I think it's really timely. And actually someone that I coach in the Naturally Healthy Club had posted in the group for coaching. And so she'd posted this, what to do when confronted by temptations. And she said, had an evening last week where I ate an evening snack that was not intentional, and I ate quite a bit of it. The scenario made me realize I really need a strategy to deal with these tempting situations. So what happened was my husband and I were relaxing together in the evening, which happens most nights, and he opened a bag of potato chips, put the bag in a position we could both reach them, and then I proceeded to eat away without being intentional at all. So, what is a strategy I could implement when my husband wants to eat foods that I enjoy and are tempted to eat? In the past, I've asked my husband to refrain from eating such foods around me, but I know that that's not the way to deal with it. It's me that needs to change, not him. So Naturally Healthy Club has taught me that I have agency over what goes in my mouth. And I have noticed that if he eats something I don't particularly enjoy, I never have any, and it doesn't trigger me to eat anything else either. So what strategies can I use here? So first of all, so great to notice, right? We all have these situations where we can tend to overeat. So it's good to notice, oh, this is the pattern that happens for us. And then, so let's look at what actually causes temptation in the first place. So we're going to look, what's the thought process that's underlying that? And basically, if we're feeling tempted by something, that's telling me that there's part of you that is telling yourself that you shouldn't be eating this thing, in this case, potato chips, right? So, which of course, lots of people would have that belief that I shouldn't be having potato chips. Potato chips are bad. If I want to lose weight, I shouldn't have potato chips. So then what happens though, if you're seeing potato chips as bad, then when you're faced with potato chips in this scenario, it becomes this temptation. It's like, so temptation is like something that we shouldn't be having, and then that we have this internal struggle. So, and of course, as I said, beginning with Oscar Wilde, resistance isn't helpful. So, but just let's look at that. That's generally the underlying thing. So there's something that we tell ourselves that we shouldn't be having. And then, of course, when we're faced with it, it's very tempting. And the other thing that can happen that can cause us to feel tempted is this fear of missing out. So FOMO. And, oh, if I don't have this, I'm not going to get my fair share. So that can drive us to eat more than we really want of these things as well. So there's two factors at play that can cause us to overeat in these situations. So what do we want to do instead? So how I approach temptations is I actually have given myself radical permission to eat what I want, right? And because I have this strong belief, and that's what I coach people on in Naturally Healthy Club, is that there are no bad foods, right? So we can eat anything Of course, if you're anaphylactic to peanuts, probably not a great idea if it's going to cause you to die. But apart from that, in that extreme circumstance, there are no bad foods. And it's how much we eat of these things and how much we eat overall that determines whether it's a problem for our health and our weight or not. And so, which is really good news because then it's like nothing's off limits for me. I really feel that permission that if I want to have potato chips, I'm going to have potato chips, right? If I want to have a croissant, I'm going to have a croissant. There's nothing, if I want to have highly processed, I don't know, burger rings, whatever. I really see that there's no bad foods and that I can choose to have anything that I want whenever I want to have that. And what that does when you give yourself that permission and start seeing food in this way is it removes that forbidden fruit thing and it removes the temptation. And so then it's not about should I or shouldn't I? The discussion in your brain becomes about, do I even want this in the first place? And so Oscar Wilde also said that the only way to get rid of temptation is to yield to it. And I would add that it's actually the only way to get rid of temptation is to give yourself permission to have the thing. And so it's like, because, okay, well, I can have it. And it then becomes about whether I'm tempted or I'm not. It's like, do I even want this? Right. And so that is the secret to why I can't remember the last time I felt that angst of feeling tempted because I know that I can have whatever I want whenever I want to. And it's such an abundant, beautiful place to be in your relationship with food rather than it being like, oh, I'm this weakling who's going to be tempted. It's just like, yeah, I'm powerful. I get to choose what I want. And so I invite you into this world of food abundance and I invite you to experiment with this idea that actually I can have whatever I want. There's nothing to be tempted about, and actually get into the habit of checking in with yourself of like, do I want this before? Because if the person that I was coaching, if at any point in that evening she had have checked in with, do I really want these potato chips or not? She may have stopped eating then, she may have had more, but it would have changed how she felt. She wouldn't have been making the choice from this tempted thing. And so what I recommend for this, though, if there is something that in the past you have felt tempted about, be intentional around it. So just you can prepare yourself of like, okay, usually this happens. My husband opens snacks, and then you can go, okay, well, this is a problem. How am I going to handle this? If I do want chips, actually serving yourself out rather than both eating from the same bag. One of my clients suggested what she does with her husband is she gets him to buy two bags, right? So then she has her bag. And so she gets to have the chips in her way. She gets to slow down, savor them, but she's not afraid of him eating all of them. She gets her share. So that can be another thing that can be really helpful. Another strategy that I like to employ with this is serving yourself out what you're going to have before you start eating. So rather than just opening the ice cream tub and starting to shovel it in, actually serving out the ice cream into a bowl, putting the rest of the tub away, and then sitting down and really enjoying it. Another strategy with particularly with the indulgent foods, is to really focus on the enjoyment. So slowing down, giving it your full attention, not eating while you're watching a movie as well, actually giving yourself that gift of like being able to focus on the enjoyment of whatever it is that you're having. And then another strategy that can be helpful. So in that case, my client, she'd already had dinner. And so she wasn't feeling like food. She didn't need any more food. So what she could have done is gone, oh, I really do want some chips, but I'm feeling pretty full now. How about I'm going to have some chips tomorrow night or tomorrow for lunch or tomorrow morning, whatever. But actually having a plan of, if it doesn't make sense for you to eat that food now, planning in when you will have it. So then in the moment it's, oh yeah, no, I'm good now. And you're not worrying about being tempted because you're okay, well, I'm going to have my opportunity to have this in the future. So yeah, that's how we handle a temptation. So we give ourselves radical permission and then be intentional with having it. So the microscopic habit for you to experiment with this week is just think about what's one thing that you would in the past have considered to be something that's tempting to you and that you really love to eat, right? And think of that thing and then make a plan to intentionally have it. So decide when, might be Friday night, whatever feels good to you. Give yourself permission to have it, serve it out, enjoy it. And yeah, just notice how different that feels than having this tug of war of being tempted. And the other thing you might like to think about is just with that food, say it is chips, how often would you like to have chips? Is it something that you would like to have a little bit every day, or is it something that once a week is enough? No right or wrong there, but actually deciding ahead of time, actually I'm going to have chips 3 times a week, maybe that can be really helpful to have that boundary with yourself. Okay, and so if you'd like to be my client and become one of these naturally healthy people who get to eat chips and feel amazing in their clothes, then I recommend checking out my free on-demand workshop. So it's called The Secret to Eating What You Want and Feeling Good in Your Clothes. So you feel peace around food and weight, even in middle age, and even if your self-belief is low after trying and failing so many times. So just check out the link in the show notes and you can get instant access to the class. So have a beautiful week, enjoying whatever it is that you decided to have, and I'll catch you next week.